A stunner last night, late in the bubble. Blazers-Lakers Game 1 playoff series, final 7 minutes. Great for Portland, a nightmare for LA. Blazers down 3 in the fourth. Look at Damian Lillard. No conscience. Drilling a 3 from deep to tie the game. Lakers next possession. Anthony Davis, who did score 28. This one's not going to be even close. He's got struggles. And then LeBron had a triple-double. Oh, but Hassan Whiteside says, get that out of here. Blazers next possession. Lillard from near the logo. He would knock down the 3. 2.5 to go. The Blazers are up 3. The Lakers trying to trap Lillard. He finds Carmelo Anthony. How many big shots has he made? 11 points, 10 boards for Melo. And then under a minute to go, LeBron. No, LeBron had 23 points, 16 assists, 17 rebounds, but not enough. The Lakers lose Game 1. Meanwhile, we run the floor through the other games in the bubble yesterday. No Westbrook, no problem for Houston in Game 1 against OKC. James Harden, 37 points, 11 rebounds. Rockets beat the Thunder by 15. 22 of Harden's 37 came in the second half. Jeff Green added 22 points off the bench. Meanwhile, Jimmy Butler made a pair of threes late in the fourth quarter as the Heat beat the Pacers by a dozen. Butler scored 28, made his first three-point field goal since March 2nd. Goran Dragic added 24 points for Miami as the Heat take a 1-game-to-none lead. And then the other stunner yesterday, the Magic shocking the 1-seed Bucks, 122-110. Nikola Vucevic scoring 35. The Bucks were favored by 13.5 points. This is the third largest playoff upset in the last 20 seasons. And so, Coach Fizdale and Jackie Mack are back with me. And Jackie, I will start with you again. We saw LeBron lose. We saw Giannis lose. In your mind right now, which of those two superstars is in bigger trouble?
Well, I'm still going to trend towards LeBron because of some of the issues we discussed in the previous segment. Not that this was a good loss for the Bucks. Of course it wasn't. You've got to give Steve Clifford, the Orlando coach, so much credit for the defensive game plan that he set up. The one thing about the Bucks is they love to score in transition. And when they do that and they start going downhill, it's not only good points, it's demoralizing for the other team. The Orlando Magic held them to 12 transition points. That's a win in anybody's book. I think some of the problems that the Bucks had yesterday can be corrected, and I'm not sure for the Lakers because, to coin an old phrase that never gets old with me, Avery Bradley is not walking through that door for the Lakers to help them in that backcourt.
I hear you, and Rick Pitino hears you too. Coach Fizz, let me come to you on Milwaukee because, candidly, and Giannis has talked about it openly, they've looked bad since the restart here. And look, they had nothing to play for and all the rest of that. We get it, but now they do. What is your level of concern for what you're seeing from them?
I think Milwaukee ultimately will step it up and figure it out. But I tell you what, Orlando presents some problems. You got Vucevic, who's a pick-and-pop big, who can also post up the switch. That's a dangerous matchup for them right there throughout the series. Orlando presents a lot of length, and Clifford is one of the best coaches in the league at making you play in mud and slowing your whole team down. So Milwaukee's got some things to figure out, but I do agree with Jackie. You know, with Dame Lillard out west, he scares me more than the Orlando Magic.
Jackie, let me come back to you because you sent a note coming off this game last night that I think was important about one advantage that Milwaukee was set to have before the pandemic that they don't now, that I think is a really interesting and important point.
Well, I thought the Bucks positioned themselves so beautifully during a very long regular season, and Coach Fizz can tell you it's a war of attrition when you play a normal NBA season through 82 games. And Mike Budenholzer masterfully had kept all his starters, including his MVP and possible defensive MVP this year, Giannis, to under 31 minutes a game. This was going to be, I felt, a great advantage once you got to the postseason because your team was going to be fresh and rested while other teams relying on Harden for big minutes, LeBron for big minutes, Dame Lillard for big minutes. That's all moot now, and you lose your home court advantage.
Yeah, so I think that's a really important point to look at it. And there was another team that suffered a loss yesterday without even playing, and that is the news that the Gordon Hayward ankle injury is worse than it looked when he first walked off. They're talking about 4 weeks for him, which means not only would he miss the rest of this series against the Sixers, but if they win, you know, I don't know that we'll see him at all in a potential matchup with Toronto. Coach Fizdale, how would you describe what that loss means to the Celtics?
I think that's a huge loss for the Celtics. I think that was what made the Celtics a dangerous team, was the number of guys they had that can dribble, pass, and shoot. And pulling Hayward out of that mix now really puts a dent in what Boston's trying to do from a matchup standpoint. It'll be interesting to see how Brad Stevens works around this.
Jackie, no one knows that team better than you do. What do you say about the Hayward injury?
Yeah, it's just a shame because he had such a great bounce back year this year, and Fizz is right. He's so important. I would argue he's their best facilitator on their team. And sometimes the assist is what I call a hockey assist. He makes the one pass that makes it the easier pass for the score. He's also underrated defensively. And the big problem here, Greeny, is the one thing the Celtics lack is depth. Now you're going to take Marcus Smart, your best dense player, and put him in the starting lineup. And you got to ask some young players to do some big things that they have not been asked to do before.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.